Commander Taemin couldn't believe what he was seeing on his screen. The giant spaceship floating in empty space had writing on it that made no sense. It said Sol 3, which was supposed to be a Class 15 death world, the most dangerous type of planet in the galaxy. "Jiwoo, check this again," he told his science officer. His voice was shaky because he knew what this meant, and it scared him. Jiwoo ran the tests 3 more times. Each time, the results were the same. "Sir, the metal this ship is made from, it's exactly what our computers said ships from high-gravity worlds would look like. But that's impossible. Sol 3 was marked as a dead world. Nothing smart enough to build spaceships could ever live there." Taemin's tentacles twisted around each. Something his species did when they were really confused or worried. In all his years studying different worlds and life forms, he had never seen anything like this. Class 15 worlds were death traps. The radiation alone would kill most creatures in minutes. The gravity was so strong it would crush bones. The weather was violent beyond imagination. And the predators, even thinking about them made him shiver. "But sir," Jiwoo continued, pointing at more data on his screen, "look at these energy readings. This ship isn't dead. Something inside is still working. After all this time floating in space, it still has power." The bridge crew gathered around, their stations whispering to each other. Everyone knew the stories about Class 15 worlds. They were like legends, places so terrible that even the bravest space explorers avoided them. Most scientists believed that intelligent life simply couldn't develop on such planets. The conditions were too harsh, too deadly, too extreme. "How long has this ship been out here?" Taemin asked. "Based on the wear patterns and space dust, at least several thousand years, maybe more. But sir, that makes it even stranger. What kind of technology could keep working for that long? Our best ships start breaking down after a few hundred years." Taemin looked at the ship again. It was huge, bigger than most of their military vessels. The surface was covered in scars and dents, like it had been through terrible battles. But somehow it was still intact, still functioning, still waiting. "Should we report this to headquarters first?" asked his communications officer, Hyejin. "Maybe get backup." Taemin thought about it. The smart thing would be to call for help. But they were explorers, and this was the discovery of a lifetime. If there really was intelligent life from a Class 15 world, everything they knew about the universe would change. "No," he decided. "We investigate first, but everyone stays alert. If something could survive on a world that deadly, we don't know what we're dealing with." The crew began preparing their equipment. None of them knew they were about to meet humanity for the first time. The moment their small boarding pod touched the mysterious ship, everything went crazy. Loud warning sounds started blasting from everywhere, like the ship was screaming at them. Red lights flashed on and off, making scary shadows dance on the metal walls. Chief Engineer So Young jumped back from her equipment so fast she almost fell over. Her scanner was going wild, showing numbers that didn't make sense. "Commander Taemin, this is bad. Something inside this ship knows we're here. It's waking up." The ship's computer system was ancient, older than anything they had ever seen, but somehow it was still working perfectly. In fact, it was working better than their own modern technology. So Young's hands were shaking as she watched her instruments. "Sir, this AI system, it's like nothing we've studied. It should have broken down thousands of years ago, but it's stronger than ever." Suddenly, their communication devices started receiving strange signals. Numbers were being sent to them, simple ones at first, like 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Then the numbers got harder and more complex. "It's trying to talk to us," Hyejin whispered, her voice full of wonder and fear. She was the team's communication expert, and she had never seen anything like this. "These are math problems, prime numbers first, then advanced equations. It's testing if we're smart enough to understand." But there was something that really scared them. The computer power needed to send these complex math problems was enormous. Their best computers would struggle to do these calculations. But this ancient ship was doing them easily, like it was nothing. "How is this possible?" So Young asked, staring at her readings. "Our newest ships can barely run for 50 years without major repairs. This thing has been floating in space for thousands of years, and it's working better than anything we have." The math problems kept coming, getting harder and harder. It was like the ship was testing their intelligence, seeing if they were worth talking to. But what made it really frightening was how patient it seemed. This wasn't a panicked response. It was careful, planned, like the ship had been waiting for visitors for a very long time. "Commander?" Hyejin called out, her voice getting higher, with excitement and fear. "I think it's learning our language as we respond. Each time we answer correctly, it sends us something a little more complex. It's studying us just as much as we're studying it." The lights on the ship started pulsing in a rhythm, like a heartbeat. The whole vessel seemed to be coming alive around them. Systems that had been sleeping for thousands of years were turning on one by one. Taemin realized they weren't just exploring an empty ship anymore. They had woken something up, something that had been waiting in the darkness of space, dreaming and planning. And now it knew they were here. Whatever had built this ship was still inside, and it was very much alive. Walking through the inside of the ship felt like entering a nightmare. The hallways were built for creatures much stronger than anything the Galactic team had ever encountered. Everything was bigger, heavier, and designed to withstand forces that would crush normal beings. The first thing they found was a room full of exercise equipment, but not like anything they recognized. There were machines that created artificial gravity so strong it would flatten most species instantly. Weightlifting devices that required the strength of 10 normal beings just to move. Running tracks built for creatures that could sprint at speeds that would tear apart regular muscles and bones. "What kind of beings trained with this stuff?" whispered Da-un, the team's biology expert. She was examining the equipment with growing horror. "Look at these settings. The gravity simulator goes up to 15 times normal Earth gravity. Our strongest warriors would be crushed to death in seconds." But the exercise equipment was nothing compared to what they found next. Rows of special suits hung on the walls, environmental protection gear designed for conditions that shouldn't exist. The suits were built to handle atmospheric pressure that would turn most creatures into liquid, temperature ranges that went from freezing cold to burning hot, radiation levels that would kill anything they knew about. Da-Yun's scanner started, beeping frantically when she approached a storage area filled with glass containers. Inside were preserved samples of the most terrifying creatures she had ever seen. "These are biological specimens from their homeworld," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Viruses that would kill our entire species in days. Bacteria that eats through metal. And these predators," she held up an image from her scanner showing a creature with massive teeth and claws. "This thing could hunt and kill our best-trained soldiers like they were children playing games. And, according to these notes, the beings from this ship used to hunt these monsters for fun." Security Chief Minho was studying something even more frightening. The walls of the ship weren't just walls. They were weapons. Hidden gun ports were built into every corridor. The ceiling could drop crushing weights. The floors could become electrified. Even the air vents could spray deadly gases. "They turned their entire ship into a weapon," Minho said, his voice shaking. "Every surface, every room, every hallway can be used to fight enemies. They didn't just learn to survive on their death world, they learned to use everything as a tool for war. The more they explored, the more terrified they became. These beings hadn't just survived impossible conditions, they had thrived in them. They had taken every deadly thing about their world and made it into an advantage. Diseases that would kill others made them stronger. Predators that would terrify others became their hunting practice. Gravity that would crush others became their daily exercise routine. "We're not dealing with normal, intelligent life," Da-Yun finally said, looking at all the evidence around them. "We're dealing with living weapons, beings forged in hell itself." The ship held secrets of creatures so adapted to danger that safety was probably boring to them. Deep inside the heart of the ship, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. It was a sleeping chamber, a huge metal pod filled with glowing blue liquid and covered in frost. But this wasn't like the gentle sleeping pods they used for long space travel. This one looked like it was built to keep something alive through the worst possible conditions. Medical Officer Ye-Jin approached carefully with her scanning equipment. The moment she pointed her devices at the chamber, her instruments went crazy with readings she had never seen before. "There's definitely something alive in there," she whispered. "But these readings, they don't make sense." She ran the scan. Again, Then a third time, hoping her equipment was broken. But the results were always the same. "Commander, whatever's inside this pod isn't like any life form in our databases. The bone density is 3 times thicker than our strongest species. The muscle fibers are packed so tight they could probably lift our entire shuttle." The team gathered around as Ye-Jin continued her examination. Her hands were shaking as she read the results. But that's not even the scary part. Look at these brain scans. The neural pathways are designed to handle stress levels that would drive normal beings insane. This creature's mind is built to stay calm and think clearly, even when everything around it is trying to kill it. What really frightened Ye-Jin was what she discovered about the being's healing abilities. Its cells can repair damage faster than we thought possible. Cuts that would take us weeks to heal would probably fix themselves in hours. Broken bones would mend in days instead of months. It's like this being's body treats deadly injuries like minor scratches. "So it's tough," said Security Chief Minho. "But it's been asleep for thousands of years. Maybe it's dead by now." "That's what worries me," Ye-Jin replied. "According to these readings, it's not just alive, it's healthy. After thousands of years in that chamber, its body is in perfect condition. Better than perfect, actually. It's like the long sleep made it stronger." Suddenly, lights began flashing on the chamber. A low humming sound filled the room. The blue liquid inside started to drain away, and the frost on the outside began to melt. "It's waking up," Ye-Jin shouted, jumping back from her equipment. "The chamber is automatically reviving whatever's inside." The team watched in terror and fascination as the ancient pod began its revival sequence. Steam hissed from vents around the chamber. The humming got louder and more complex, like the ship's computer was singing a wake-up song. "Should we stop it?" asked Minho, his hand moving toward his weapon. "I don't think we can," Tae-min replied, watching the chamber's systems activate, one by one. This was programmed to happen. The ship was waiting for visitors to arrive before waking up its passenger. Through the clearing liquid, they could see a shape inside. Humanoid, but clearly built for survival in conditions that would kill them all. And it was definitely alive. The survivor from the death world was about to open its eyes. When the being from the sleeping chamber finally woke up, the first thing that shocked everyone was how normal it looked. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with eyes and a mouth. Almost like them, but built much stronger. It called itself Junseo, and when their translation computers started working, the stories it told made everyone's blood run cold. "Your ship is nice and quiet," Junseo said with what seemed like a smile. "Back home, we had to deal with thunderstorms that could throw around boulders the size of your shuttle. My kids used to play outside during weather that would probably kill your whole crew." The team's anthropologist, Subin, was recording everything with trembling hands. She had studied hundreds of different species and their homeworlds, but nothing had prepared her for this. "Tell me about these storms," she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Junseo looked confused, like she was asking about something completely normal. "Well, the lightning bolts are usually about as thick as tree trunks, and the wind speeds can reach 300 kilometers per hour. Sometimes the hail is as big as your head. Great weather for testing if your roof is strong enough." He paused, noticing their horrified expressions. "Oh, don't worry. That's just spring weather. Summer storms are much worse." While talking, Junseo casually picked up a heavy piece of equipment that normally required 2 crew members and a mechanical lifter to move. He held it with one hand like it weighed nothing. "Your gravity here feels really light. It's comfortable, like being in our mountain regions where the air is thin and everything feels easier." Subin couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mountain regions? You mean your people live in high-gravity areas for relaxation?" "Sure," Junseo replied cheerfully. "The mountains are where we go for vacation. Lower gravity, fewer predators, milder weather. My grandmother has a cabin up there where the gravity is only twice what you have on this ship." The more Junseo talked, the more impossible his world sounded. He described hunting trips where humans tracked and killed creatures that could tear apart their strongest military vehicles. He talked about diseases that killed most people, but made the survivors immune to almost everything else. He mentioned competitions where humans fought each other in conditions that would be considered torture. "The funny thing is," Junseo continued, "all the dangerous stuff on our world made us really good at solving problems. When a giant predator is chasing you, you learn to think fast and be creative. When diseases are trying to kill you, your body learns to fight back harder. When the weather is trying to destroy your home, you build better houses. Subin was writing notes as fast as she could. These humans hadn't just survived their nightmare world, they had learned to love it. Every challenge that would destroy other species had made them stronger, smarter, and more adaptable. We always wondered if there was other life in the galaxy, Junseo said, looking around at the terrified crew with curiosity. Now I see why no one ever visited Earth. You probably thought it was too dangerous. He was right. Earth wasn't just dangerous. It was a training ground that had created the perfect survivors. Back at the main galactic monitoring station, alarms were going off everywhere. Admiral Kyung-soo rushed to the long-range sensor room where his officers were staring at their screens in complete shock. "Sir, you need to see this," called out his sensor operator, pointing at the display. "We're detecting massive objects coming from the Sol system, hundreds of them." Kyung-soo looked at the screen and felt his heart skip a beat. The sensors showed enormous ships, each one bigger than their largest military vessels, approaching from the direction of that deadly Class 15 world. But these weren't just big ships. They were battle-scarred, covered in dents and marks that told stories of journeys through space that should have killed anyone inside. "How many?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We've counted over 300. So far, and more keep appearing on our sensors. Sir, some of these ships look like they've been traveling for decades, maybe centuries. The damage patterns suggest they've been through asteroid fields, radiation storms, and gravitational anomalies that would destroy our best vessels." Admiral Kyung-soo studied the formation patterns of the approaching fleet. These weren't random ships flying together. They were organized, coordinated, moving like a single unit with purpose and planning. This isn't an exploration mission, he realized with growing fear. This is a migration fleet. They're looking for new places to live. Meanwhile, back on the survey ship, Junseo noticed the crew's panic as emergency messages started flooding their communication systems. He watched their terrified faces with what looked like amusement. "Oh, I see you've spotted the others," he said casually, like he was talking about friends arriving for dinner. "I was wondering when they'd catch up. I've been asleep for quite a while." Commander Taimin spun around to face him. "Others? How many others?" Junseo thought for a moment, like he was trying to remember something simple. "Well, when I left Earth, there were about 50,000 ships in the first wave. Each one carries somewhere between 10,000 to 50,000 people, depending on the ship size, so probably around 1 billion humans, give or take." The number hit the crew like a physical blow. 1 billion humans from a death world, looking for new homes. "Don't worry," Junseo continued cheerfully. "We're not conquerors or anything. We're just running out of room on Earth. 8 billion people on one planet gets pretty crowded, even when that planet is as big as ours. We figured it was time to spread out and see what other worlds might be nice places to live." Subin found her voice first. "What do you mean by nice places to live?" "Oh, you know, places with reasonable gravity, interesting weather, maybe some challenging local wildlife to keep things exciting. We're not picky. If you think a world is too dangerous or hostile for your people, it's probably perfect for us." The crew realized with horror that every dead world, every hostile planet, every place they considered uninhabitable was about to become a potential human colony. The galaxy's most dangerous places were going to become humanity's new neighborhoods. The universe was about to get a lot more crowded. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council had never seen chaos like this. Representatives from dozens of different species were shouting, arguing, and demanding answers all at the same time. The emergency session had been called the moment the human fleet was detected, and now panic filled the enormous chamber. "Must prepare for war immediately," screamed the representative from the Thakari Empire, his scales turning bright red with anger. 1 billion beings from a death world cannot be allowed to enter civilized space." Other voices joined in, creating a wall of sound that made it impossible to think clearly. "They're invaders. Deploy the defense fleets. Quarantine the entire Sol system." But Councillor Yunji stood up, her calm voice somehow cutting through the noise. She was known for being logical when others were emotional. "Wait. Everyone needs to stop panicking and think about this clearly. These humans could actually solve some of our biggest problems. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Look at our territorial maps, she continued, projecting a holographic display of the galaxy. We have thousands of worlds that we've marked as completely uninhabitable. Radiation zones, high-gravity planets, toxic atmospheres, extreme weather systems. These places are worthless to us but apparently perfect for humans. The Velkari delegate, a creature that looked like a giant butterfly, fluttered his wings in agitation. That's exactly what terrifies us. If they can live in places we can't even visit, they'll control resources we didn't even know existed. They could mine radioactive materials with their bare hands. They could build colonies on planets where our ships can't even land safely. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening. Human representatives had already made contact with the Galactic Council's communication systems. Instead of threats or demands, they were offering gifts. Councillor Yunji displayed the human proposals on the main screen. Look at what they're sharing with us. Medical treatments that could extend lifespans for most species by hundreds of years, engineering techniques for building in extreme environments, food production methods that could end hunger on resource-poor worlds. The chamber buzzed with confused murmurs. This wasn't what anyone had expected from beings from a death world. They're not asking for our best worlds, Yunji continued. They want the places we consider uninhabitable wastelands. In exchange, they're offering technology that could revolutionize our entire civilization. A small group of representatives began nodding in agreement. The medical advances alone could save billions of lives across the galaxy. The engineering solutions could open up entire sectors of space that were previously too dangerous to explore. But the fear was still strong. What happens when they decide they want our worlds too? Asked the Velkari delegate. What happens when beings who consider death worlds comfortable decide they want something we have? The debate raged for hours. Some species saw the humans as the answer to problems they'd struggled with for centuries. Others saw them as the biggest threat the galaxy had ever faced. As the arguments continued, more reports came in. Human ships weren't attacking anyone. They were just waiting, floating peacefully in space, asking permission to settle empty worlds that no one else wanted. The vote that would come next would change everything. 5 years had passed since the Great Vote, and the galaxy looked completely different. Ambassador Xung Ho stood on the observation deck of his office, looking out at what used to be called the dead zone of Kepler 442b. Now, green fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with farms and small cities where families were raising children. It's hard to believe this place was considered worthless just a few years ago, he said into his communication device, sending his weekly report back to Earth. The soil here has radiation levels that would kill most galactic species in hours, but our crops are growing better than anyone expected. The transformation had been incredible to watch. Planets that had been marked with warning signs and do not approach notices were now bustling with human activity. What other species saw as deadly wastelands, humans saw as prime real estate. On Sim, the mining world of Zerion 7, human workers were extracting valuable minerals from asteroids so radioactive that other species couldn't even send robot probes near them. The miners worked in conditions that would be considered torture by galactic standards, but they treated it like a normal day job. The funny thing is, Xung Ho continued his report, the local alien species keep visiting our colonies to see how we're doing it. Yesterday, a delegation from the Centauri Federation came to tour our agricultural facilities. They had to wear full environmental suits just to breathe our air, while our farmers were working in shorts and t-shirts. The integration hadn't been completely smooth, though. There were still problems to solve and misunderstandings to work through. Some alien species were frightened by how casually humans dealt with danger. Others were amazed by human problem-solving abilities, but worried about being left behind technologically. We had an interesting incident last week, Xung Ho reported with a chuckle. A group of Thakari diplomats wanted to visit our research station on Hellfire 3. They spent 3 days in their ship just trying to work up the courage to land on a planet with surface temperatures of 200 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, our research team was outside having a picnic. The research stations were perhaps the most impressive human achievements. Scientists were studying phenomena in environments so extreme that other species could only observe them from safe distances. They were making discoveries about physics, chemistry, and biology that were revolutionizing galactic understanding of the universe. But the biggest success was in the agricultural sectors. Humans had learned to grow food in conditions that shouldn't support any life at all. High-gravity worlds produced crops with incredible nutritional density. Radiation-soaked soil created plants with unique healing properties. Toxic atmospheres were filtered and processed into fertilizers that made everything grow faster and stronger. The trade relationships are working out better than anyone expected, Seung-ho noted. We provide food, medicine, and raw materials from places other species can't access. In return, they share their art, culture, and technologies that make our lives more comfortable. Children were being born on these new worlds. Human kids who would grow up thinking that hurricane force, winds, and crushing gravity were perfectly normal. They played games that would terrify adult aliens and considered it a boring day when nothing tried to kill them. The galaxy was learning that having neighbors from a death world wasn't so bad after all. 10 years had passed since first contact, and Director Haiwan sat in her office overlooking Earth's moon, watching the most amazing sight in the galaxy. Through her window, she could see human children playing in the low-gravity playground, while a group of alien visitors watched in amazement, their bulky environmental suits making them look like walking tanks. "Look at them," she said to herself, with a smile. "Our kids are doing backflips in gravity that those poor visitors can barely walk in." The transformation of human-alien relations had been beyond anyone's wildest dreams. What started as fear and suspicion had turned into the most successful partnership in galactic history. Humans had become the go-to species for any job that other civilizations considered impossible. When the Andromedan Republic needed someone to build a research station next to a black hole, they called humans. When the Crystal Federation wanted to mine resources from the core of an active volcano planet, humans showed up with equipment and enthusiasm. When unknown diseases were killing entire populations on rim worlds, human doctors arrived with treatments that seemed like magic to other species. "We've got 847 active colonies now," Haiwan noted, reviewing her reports. "Each one on a world that was previously marked as certain death in the galactic databases. And not only are we surviving there, we're thriving." The economic impact had been staggering. Resources that were previously impossible to obtain were now flowing freely through galactic trade networks. Humans were extracting rare elements from the hearts of gas giants, growing food in the radiation shadows of dying stars, and building cities on worlds where the rain was liquid methane. But perhaps the most important change was how other species viewed the concept of impossible. Before humans arrived, many galactic civilizations had become comfortable and cautious. They avoided risks, stayed in safe zones, and accepted that some things simply couldn't be done. Humans changed all that. "I got a message from the Viridian Science Council yesterday," Haiwan continued, reading through her communications. "They want to partner with us on a project to explore the galactic core. 5 years ago, they would have said it was suicide. Now they're asking when we can start." Through her window, she watched a group of young humans training for their first off-world assignments. They were practicing in an environment simulator that recreated the surface conditions of Proxima Death 7, a world where the ground temperature reached 500 degrees and the atmosphere contained 17 different types of poison gas. The human trainees were laughing and joking as they worked through problems that would give alien engineers nightmares. To them, it was just another day at the office. Earth made us into something special, Haiwan reflected. All those millions of years of evolution on a world that kept trying to kill us. It wasn't torture. It was training. The galaxy had become humanity's playground. Every dead world was a potential home. Every impossible challenge was just another problem to solve. Every place that other species feared was somewhere humans might want to visit for vacation. Looking. Out at the stars, Haiwan smiled. The universe was vast and full of dangers that would terrify most civilizations. But for humans, it was just another neighborhood to explore. The galaxy had never been safer, because the species from the death world was watching over it.